ever-evolving landscape of global power and technology, the race to harness the vast potential of outer space has intensified. With nations vying for supremacy beyond our planet, it's no wonder that recent advancements in satellite laser technology have sparked considerable interest, concern, and even panic in some quarters, particularly in China. The question on everyone's mind is whether the United States possesses satellite lasers with capabilities that could potentially reshape the balance of power in space. In this episode, we'll delve into the growing anxieties and shedding light on the potential implications of US satellite lasers in the context of international space politics. This is Reveal the Mystery. If you are curious to learn mysteries of the world, space and beyond, consider subscribing. War in space. International relations in outer space have seen a continuous escalation, possibly due to the sun's proximity or the persistent inability of global leaders and military forces to coexist harmoniously. The conflict in Ukraine, notably, introduced tensions into the International Space Station. Russia, for instance, was reportedly driven to contemplate departure. Another incident involved the International Space Station needing to alter its course to avoid debris from a Russian experiment in 2021, causing issues 2 years earlier in 2019. The head of the US Space Command had previously cautioned that China might attempt to disable satellites during wartime. These and numerous other instances have underscored the inevitability of potential space conflicts. By 2019, NATO had acknowledged space as a prospective battleground alongside traditional domains like air, land, sea, and cyberspace. Historically, war has managed to infiltrate any domain where nations hold security interests. Several countries rely on space for military and economic purposes, making it a vulnerable point for adversaries to exploit, potentially employing weapons as leverage. These weapons could comprise satellites equipped with electronic jamming technology, laser weaponry for blinding or disrupting enemy satellites, or kinetic weapons like kill vehicles designed to collide with and obliterate enemy satellites. Notably, an American startup named True Anomaly is already developing a satellite with offensive capabilities. The company plans to launch 2 prototype pursuit satellites aboard a SpaceX rocket into low Earth orbit later this year. These prototype spacecraft, known as Jackals, won't initially house any firearms, warheads, or laser weapons unless the US military definitively determines the most effective space weaponry. Weapons in space. In the vacuum of space, where there is no atmosphere, most kinetic weapons face limitations due to the absence of something to push against. However, this circumstance favors laser weapons as they encounter less atmospheric resistance. Thus, lasers emerge as strong contenders for the most effective space weaponry. Railguns, which propel high-velocity projectiles without needing to counteract air resistance, are also formidable contenders. In contrast to laser beams that disperse and weaken over longer distances, railgun projectiles like ball bearings don't suffer from this issue. As long as the railgun can generate enough power to launch the ball bearings at rapid speeds towards their targets, their impact remains potent, irrespective of the distance from the target. This makes railguns in a space context straightforward and efficient, even though they may require more time to reach their targets. This capability is particularly advantageous for striking relatively slow-moving satellites. While the United States is deliberating which weapons to use for projects like True Anomaly's Jackals, it appears that China already possesses a laser weapon for targeting objects in space. A U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report from 2022 concluded that China has ground-based laser systems with varying power levels, some of which can target objects in orbit over 60 miles away. Multiple sites housing these weapons have been identified, and some of them were observed actively engaging foreign satellites, including American and commercial satellites, at the Korla East Test Site in Xinjiang, China. This activity aligns with recent American suspicions that China is investing in technology to disrupt, destroy, or hijack foreign satellites, rendering them inoperative. Additionally, Chinese researchers have reportedly developed the relativistic klystron amplifier, RKA, a directed energy weapon that could interfere with or destroy satellites in space using a 5-megawatt wave burst. Unlike ground-based weapons, the RKA can be deployed on satellites, allowing it to approach its targets closely and disable sensitive electronics. The development of the RKA reflects China's significant progress in directed energy weapons, considering the substantial technical challenges it must have overcome. For the RKA to be effective against large satellites traveling at high speeds, it requires a high power output, advanced beam control, adaptive optics technology to compensate for atmospheric disturbances, and sophisticated tracking and targeting capabilities for precise and accurate engagement. While the status of the RKA as a directed energy weapon is disputed, the truth remains uncertain for now. Nonetheless, the United States is unwavering in its response, displaying a resolute determination to address these evolving challenges. Laser response? The US has deployed a variety of responses to counter China's space-based advancements, actively exploring multiple avenues, including laser communication systems, kinetic kill vehicles, Earth-based lasers, and space-based jammers. One of the Pentagon's industry partners, General Atomics, is engaged in collaborative efforts with the Space Development Agency to launch a fleet of small spacecraft capable of laser-based data transmission. This technology promises reduced latency, increased bandwidth for data transfer, and efficient high-speed connectivity capable of instantly sharing vast amounts of information thanks to the favorable conditions for laser technology in space. Kinetic kill vehicles, which can be likened to the space version of kamikaze drones used on Earth, can be employed by hunter-killer satellites. These satellites could house kinetic vehicles and launch them when a target comes into view. Alternatively, the satellites themselves could serve as kinetic kill vehicles, colliding with targets. The viability of this approach depends on the US military's ability to achieve this economically. The Near-Field Infrared Experiment program, INFIRE, initiated during the Bush era, had a similar objective, though it was reportedly terminated in 2015, leaving room for speculation about the existence of a classified successor program. In 2002, the Bush administration initiated 2 offensive space capabilities, the Counter-Communications System, CCS, and the Counter-Surveillance Reconnaissance System. Although the project was cancelled in 2004, it set the stage for a range of offensive capabilities aimed at space, which the US military currently possesses. The US now boasts an array of Earth-based laser weapons that can target assets in space or be adapted for such purposes. With weapons like Helios and Dem-Shorad Shield now in existence, it's evident that the US Air Force, Army, Navy, and their industry partners have been diligently working to bolster their capabilities. Another potential addition to the US military's arsenal is a space-based jamming system, which could be incorporated into highly valuable American satellites or deployed on maneuverable Guardian satellites. The Air Force Research Laboratory began testing maneuvering satellites in 2003 with the XSS-10, followed by the XSS-11 in 2005. In 2014, a similar satellite known as the Automated Navigation and Guidance Experiment for Local Space underwent testing. This has led to the establishment of a constellation of such satellites in geostationary orbit, a valuable and challenging territory to access in space. Conclusion: this group of satellites is called the Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, and its main job is to safeguard American and Allied assets in space. These assets include many of the world's communications satellites, whether they are used for civilian or military purposes. These satellites have been busy making lots of adjustments and movements to fulfill their mission. However, they don't have the ability to actively destroy other objects in space right now. In simple terms, these satellites can't shoot space guns, laser beams, or jam radio signals at other objects. If they could, they would be more threatening to potential enemies in space. As people learn more about space, there are discussions about creating powerful space weapons that could even be used against extraterrestrial beings. But we hope that space remains a peaceful place, free from any kind of weaponization, and that we continue to explore and coexist peacefully with the planets and stars.